he drew down $380 million on that credit line. And how much money did he pay in taxes on that $380 million?
Zero. So is he still sitting on the couch, or is he up somewhere now? Hello, everyone. Welcome to Now Boarding. I don't even know what episode this is. Do we know what episode this is?
114 for those of you who are counting.
Look at that. Welcome to 114. Today we're going to do a little bit of historical walk through time. We're going to marry it up with things that are happening today. I think that we can just jump right into it. Our first topic, if you haven't heard, it turns out the U.S. might be interested in purchasing Greenland. Right, so there's a lot of kerfluffle about whether or not we should, whether or not they want to be purchased, or even if it's possible. But it sounded crazy to me when I first heard it, I got to admit. But like most things, if we take a little deep dive through history, it turns out we've been crazy for a while. So first, Kenny, is this the first time that we've ever tried to purchase Greenland? Do you think so?
Greenland, I would say no.
No, you think we've gone after it before. In fact, you are correct. In 1867, okay, the same year that we did another purchase that we'll talk about, the Alaska purchase, which is a steal, if I might say. So 1867, the State Department considered a $5.5 million offer, but they never formally gave it to Denmark. So way back in 1867, we were looking in envy across the seas, okay? And then back in 1946, you might remember there was a giant world war that happened around then, the second one. So right as that was coming to a close there, we offered 100 million in gold bars for Greenland.
Just shipping over 100 million?
Yeah, 100 milli gold bars in 1946. And Denmark was like, pass, hard pass, we're good. Which I'm surprised, 100 milli back in 1946, right? That's something else. So to just kind of round out these crazy purchases, right? So Greenland has not been, there's actually been quite a few purchases that's happened over time. So if we ask, what is the price that we paid and who did we buy Alaska from? How's your trivia going there?
Oh, who did we buy Alaska? You know what? I think my content knowledge stops at the Louisiana purchase, so I have no idea.
I was with you, man. I was with you. We bought Alaska from the Ruskies, right? And in fact, we paid $7.2 million back in 1867. That's 132 milli in today's dollars. So imagine buying Alaska
steal
for 132. Are you kidding me? And the crazy part to this story is I don't have the guy's name here, but the State Department guy who negotiated this deal had like memes made about him before there were memes. Like in the newspaper, that he wasted our money and did this terrible purchase. And like he bought a bunch of ice from the Russians. He's an idiot. Turns out not an idiot. That was quite a good purchase, actually.
So I just looked it up on Gemini as you were going through it. And Gemini, I would say, just as a side note, we've been running all of our research for the show on Gemini. So this is a little plug for those guys. They have gotten so good over the course of the last 4 or 5 months. Everything that you hear on the show is actually run through Gemini. I was just wondering, how much does Alaska currently produce in oil per year? Just in oil. And it's 1.4 billion per year. So this guy
could have had, this guy could have the all-time best purchase return on investment. Let's do some math here. You're our math guy. Get Gemini going. If they bought it, what was that for 7.2 million in 1867, and now it's producing that much a year. Like, what's the return on that? I don't even know. That's crazy, man. And while you're looking that up, I'll just say Gemini, like, holy cow. Okay. Not only can you ask it questions and things, I know this sounds like an infomercial. It's not. We're not yet getting paid $1 for this. But I've used Gemini and connected it to my Google Photos, and I've been like, hey, tell me about my year. And it goes through the photos, looks where they were taken and what we were doing, and created like a little synopsis of like, this is what you did this year. Way cool stuff going over there. Good job, Gemini peeps.
Okay. So the question is, if the United States bought Alaska in 1867, which it did, how much money have we made in oil in today's dollars from that point in time from Alaska? So right now, Gemini is calculating the revenue
Beep, boop.
and the
Beep,
data.
boop, beep, boop.
Beep, boop, 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 boop. Yeah, Matt, can you cue the Jeopardy music? Thank you very much. Okay, so I'll read you the card. So the purchase price, like Jason said, 7.2 million. I'm just reading right off of Gemini now. So the adjusted for today's inflation, approximately 150 million. Is that what you said? We're like spot on there. It has produced. So oil was discovered in the late 1960s. That's the important part.
Okay.
So since 1960, so it's at 100 years, kind of looking like a bad bet.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But since 1960, Alaska has produced 18 billion with a B barrels of oil. In today's total economic value, that is estimated at over $1 trillion. Now, in terms of direct government revenue, if we were to take only the taxes and royalties collected specifically by the state of Alaska and not the oil company profits, in taxable revenue, the total is over $280 billion.
Oh my goodness.
So the United States has returned roughly $6,600 per every $1 spent on the purchase of Alaska. Should we purchase Greenland, taking a very long arc? The answer is probably yes, because it's very, and I'm probably stealing your thunder a little bit here, but it's probably very mineral rich. And so even if we end up coughing up $700 billion, which I think is the number that gets floated right now, it probably will pay back over the course of a 100-year outlook. It's probably going to pay back, a multiple on that for sure.
That's
I don't
incredible.
want to steal your thunder.
No, that's incredible. It makes me, listen, I want to invent a time machine right now, go back and get Mr. William H. Seward, okay, who, when he made this deal, it was nicknamed Seward's Folly and Seward's Icebox. And my man was right. Now, it took 100 years for it to come around, a little more, but my goodness. Okay, so, as crazy as Greenland sounds, maybe in 100 years, they discover an alien craft under the ice and suddenly through the roof. You know what I mean?
I mean, if Greenland can bring us closer to disclosure, I think we pay anything. I think it's priceless.
Speaking of disclosure, did you see there was like a memo from one of the large banks presidents to I should look this up. I'll have Jim and I get these facts. We'll loop around. But someone high up in a bank sent someone a memo saying we got to prepare for the U.S. disclosing alien life and the potential run on our bank this year.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. On a weird side note, this is a side note in the vein of aliens. There was something that was supposedly leaked from NASA that said on August 12th, forgive me if I get the date wrong, that the world is going to lose gravity for 7 seconds. Have you seen this yet?
No.
So
this is amazing.
Supposedly, this program has been funded by NASA for, I believe the number is $89 billion. And they've been researching why that on August 12th, the entire world is going to lose gravity for 7 seconds. And so for those 7 seconds, nothing will be tethered to Earth. Everything will float, and then everything will eventually fall back down to Earth. So I think that NASA was saying that between 40 and 50 million people will die in that single 7 seconds. and it'll cause trillions of dollars worth of damage. And so, and, you know, the latest internet hoax, I thought that was one of the better internet hoaxes. I was sharing it with my wife, and I was like, are we strapping ourselves to the bed with our child on August 12th? Like, are we preventing floating? Or do you say, you know what, I'm going to float in my bed because I know I'm just going to fall back down after it's done.
Yeah.
I mean, if you knew it was coming, would you do the float or would you anchor yourself?
No, I would definitely I would do both. I would have like the cartoony with the rope attached to something so I could float up. Then I could like pull myself lower and then kind of float up, you know? That's how I would go. Now, the earth is spinning, and in my mind, if things float, now things are doing this too. I don't know, dude. We may have to go to Gemini physics on this one. But it could be happening. The guy's name is Helen McCall, and he's a former Bank of England top employee, and he's sent a letter that the United States government appears to be partway through a multi-year process to declassify and, you know, to let everyone know that advanced non-human intelligence is responsible for what's happening in the world. So this could be it. We could be coming to it.
Yeah. You know what, though? To be honest, I used to think that if the U.S. disclosed it, that the markets would go in a panic and everything would go upside down. I think it would be like anything else. Sadly, I think it would be like anything else. I think it would be a news story for about a week, and then people would be like, all right, whatever. There's aliens. We kind of knew it. Which is probably why they've been rolling it out like this for so long.
They know what they're doing. We're just going to doom scroll right past the aliens. Oh, God, this is filling up my feed. Come on.
Yeah, no, it's my most probably, well, I almost believe anything that has like good music or is convincing. But one of the more weird conspiracy theories that I'm like, it wouldn't surprise me if it's true. I believe that the aliens can communicate to your subconscious, right? Like via just thoughts and dreams.
Seems reasonable.
And I totally think that aliens have been planting like movie script ideas into people's heads, and then that's how these movies are being made. And then basically they used Hollywood and our entertainment complex to just piece together what this is going to be like. So the first time it's not so shocking, right? We've seen the alien movies, we've seen the Independence Day, we've seen, Avengers, right? Like we've seen all of these iterations of visitors of from another planet or dimension or intelligence. And I kind of believe that all of those ideas and thoughts could have just been supplanted by a supremely intelligent species. Just to be like, let's warm these guys up so they don't have a freak out.
Yeah, they got this checklist. They're like, okay, let's hit them with the Hollywood scripts now for 40 years.
Let's do some Avengers, right? So when they start seeing humans flying in the air, they're like, that's just Iron Man, right?
Yeah. We're here for it, man. We're here for it.
All right. What's your prediction? Do you think that we're going to take over Greenland in 2026, or you think it's going to die on the vine?
Yeah, I think it's already, there's some news articles today coming out. It's already curving to, we can build military bases anywhere we want, and maybe we get some mineral rights, which is kind of, I know we could build bases before. So I think it's going to be one of those, call it a win and nothing big happens.
Yeah, that seems to be the Trump playbook. Say the most extreme thing, get everyone be like, oh my God, that's insane. And then he's like, well, I don't want to blow up the whole world. I don't want to go to war. What if we just do a deal for a few bases and some mineral rights, and we'll guarantee the safety of Greenland, even though it's kind of part of NATO, and we already kind of guarantee its safety. And so that's probably what's going to happen. I think it's a play for mineral rights and the land, and it could be worth a lot of money. So I don't know. I mean,
I just hope my son doesn't pick up this negotiating tactic. You know what I mean? Like he's like, Dad, I'm going to drop out of school and be a hobo playing guitar. And I'll be like, what are you talking about? He's like, nah, instead of that, I want $20 for lunch. Is that okay?
Oh my God. You know what? What if all the kids of the world are paying attention to politics and they're learning how to negotiate like Trump? Just saying the most extreme thing. and then just being, can we settle in the middle? That's why I did read the book Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss for this very specific reason of not meeting in the middle. And I think that the book does a really genius kind of way of like, because basically he was the lead hostage negotiator for the United States for a very long period of time. And his premise is like the book's title is like, in a hostage negotiation, you can't meet in the middle, right? If we're holding producer Anna hostage, it's life or death for her, right? And often meeting in the middle is like basically no one wins. But it's the most common tactic because you feel like you're winning and both sides feel like they're winning. But often, especially in the hostage world, like it's not a good idea, right? Yeah. Like we don't negotiate with terrorists because once we start to pay, then all of a sudden we incentivize the behavior. Just like in the state of California, which we're going to talk about as a bridge, they spent $20+ billion trying to solve the homeless crisis, but now there's more homeless people there than ever. Right. So it's like one of those adverse things. Now, could it be fraud like in Minnesota? Sure, probably. But it's also like if you're homeless and you know that California will pay and subsidize your homeless lifestyle, that attracts more homeless people. If in California you were like, hey, I want the goal to be, I want to get rid of homelessness in Los Angeles. What you would do if you really wanted to accomplish the goal is you would say, hey, for all the homeless people, we're going to round them up and we're going to ship them off to some undisclosed location that's a prison in the middle of nowhere. And once we dump you there, it's you fend for yourself. You may live, you may die. We don't know. We're not going to report on it. But people will be like, all right, I'm not going to be homeless in LA. Right? So like the incentive that you give drives the behavior. And so if you're like, oh, there's $20 billion worth of funding, well, shit, you're going to have all these people move there. And because they know that they can get a piece of the action. And everyone wants a piece of the action, right? So it's like, yeah. Are you all wrapped up with Greenland? Do you want to go to the next topic?
Yeah. Let's move over to California. If I may propose just an alternate slight theory, it does seem like there's more crazy people every day in the world. Maybe it's because I get to view them every day more and more. But if there really are more crazy people every day, then it's more like where can, like I saw they just executive ordered mental institutions, bringing back the mental institutions. I have no idea how that's going to play out, but I do feel like we're a little crazier every day.
Oh, it gets a little bit more nutty. Yeah, there's something in the water. There's something in the air. It does get a little bit weirder every day. And then you also see the weird because now it's easier than ever to experience the weird and see it. It's just like a flick of your thumb away, you know. So
how do we get into this grift in California?
Honestly, the grift in California, there's a bunch of ways to extort the government in California. But today, I want to talk about how the politicians are trying to extort everyone's favorite class of people to hate, billionaires, right? And I get it. Like, I really do. So there's this bill, for context, there's a bill in California which is called the Billionaire Tax Act. And what it essentially does is it's going to be a one-time taking of money from billionaires. And on the surface, you may sound like, okay, that sounds like a not horrible idea. But after going through it and learning about it, I actually am, even though I'm not a billionaire, this wouldn't affect me in any way. I cannot tell you how diametrically opposed to this I am and how I think that it's one of the most un-American things that I've ever heard. And the fact that people support this, I think, is literally insane because it creates precedent that is very scary and bad. So let's go over this. So what is the proposal? California has about 200 people who are considered billionaires. And the proposal is that for all of those people that have a net worth of over $1 billion, that the government is going to collect a 5% tax on their total net worth. Now, the crazy thing is most of these people's net worth is in stock, right? the owners of public companies and they have stock, or they're the Elon Musks and Larry Page, Sergey Brin's of the world. And what it would do is it would force them to sell their stock, which is their property. It's their ownership in a company. And the reason that they're doing this, and we're going to talk about this on the next slide, is they have a revenue goal. They have about $100 billion shortfall that they have to fund for healthcare and education. And so essentially, California's budget is very closely tied to the stock market and capital gains. So if you look at this chart, California was a business, its revenue that it generates goes up and down with how much that people sell their stock. Basically, the government of California, a large portion of it is funded by capital gains. And you'll see in this chart, this is their revenue going back to 2018. And you'll see that for about 5 years up until COVID, it stays pretty steady. But then COVID happens and the Fed just pumps a bunch of money into the economy, and the S&P goes bonkers, okay? Absolutely bonkers. Well, what happens is people, they start selling off their stock. Now, every time that they sell off their stock, they pay capital gains tax. And if you can go into Gemini, Jason, and find out what capital gains tax, I think it's either 20 or 22%. And so these really wealthy people, they get hit with a 22% tax, I believe. And that is basically how California funds a large portion of its money. Now, the interesting thing that happens is because governments don't get elected by promising people less. So the only way that you get elected, really, especially in a democratic California, is you're going to say, hey, if you elect me, I'm going to do this program, or I'm going to give you this, like, basically handout, right? So what they found and what the legislator did is as their revenue started going up, they just started spending more, okay? And the spending level, now they're in $100 billion hole because the stock market has cooled off and now no one is selling their stocks. So they used to collect all of this money. Now their revenue, right, is still above 2020 levels. But the government spent so much money that it's in the hole for $100 billion.
That's right? Crazy. So in 4 years, if you just forget about the giant up and down, in 4 years, we're still above what we were spending, but now we're $100 billion in the hole because we just went crazy with the crack. And looking here, Gemini says capital gains, they actually just count it as regular income. So you can imagine the income brackets that people play with the progressive tax. So you can pour out as much income as you just want to get taxed, and it's going to come in as salary and be taxed that way.
Oh, interesting. Is that right?
Well, this is what Gemini is telling us.
Okay. Well, either way, we'll have to check that. But oh yeah. Oh, they don't offer. Oh, interesting. So yeah. California does not offer a lower tax rate for long-term capital gains.
Isn't that crazy?
Oh.
Yeah. It's a strange game over there.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so you must also pay federal taxes on top of the state tax. So short-term is between 10 to 37%, and long-term held is either 15 or 20. So, okay, but that's money paid to the federal government. That's not state tax. So the state tax, okay, that makes sense. Okay,
but we got you
anyway,
here. 4 years, we're still at a deficit, even though we've increased because it went crazy for those years. This chart right here is just proof to me that government will spend exactly as much money as you give it. And then if you start taking it away, it's going to stay at where it was.
Yeah, and it really makes you think as an American, if you ask yourself this. So the US budget, if we could wave a magic wand today, based on our taxable revenue for the entire country. And if we could basically have that same spending level on a federal government basis as we did in 2019, we would have a balanced budget. Okay, I want you to think about that. So just to make it simple, if we were to say, hey, we liked our lives in 2019, we thought things were going more or less well, and we're going to just take all of our spending structure, so what we spend on healthcare and defense and all this, and we're going to revert it and roll it back to 2019, we would have a balanced budget both in California, and we would have a balanced budget both on the federal level. So you have to ask yourself as a voter, the government, both on the state and local level, they keep spending more, which means that we keep paying more in taxes, right? And then does the quality of your life get better? And I cannot say from 2019 that I have benefited from anything that the government does. Everything has gotten more expensive and terrible. Like healthcare is demonstratively worse and more expensive today versus 2019. Inflation and monetary policy has made going and just living your everyday life more expensive. Homes are unaffordable. So if you were just to take those three and you were to say, is my life better in these three areas? Is my healthcare cheaper? Or is my ability to buy a home at a reasonable price, is that better today? And then is my ability to just buy groceries and like meet my everyday needs, was that better in 2019 or 2026? Your answer is going to be for all three of those 2019. Across the board. So then you have to ask yourself, why are we getting taxed into oblivion? And why do we keep voting for more government intervention when you can have a balanced budget, have the goods and services that you were fine with in 2019, and not basically put the American and world economy at risk? That's what I really think about. And California is emblematic of the entire United States.
Now, between 2019 and 2026, Sanford city government did come up with Food Truck Fridays, and I really dig that. Now, I don't think it costs too much of their money, of the federal tax dollars for that. That's the only positive government impact that I can name. Sorry.
Food Truck Fridays. But are they paying for the food or they're just organizing it?
You know, they just organize it. And in fact, they're actually levying taxes and fees on the food truck people. And they made a food truck person stop selling their food and like pack it up because they decided that the weather was inclement enough that they wanted to stop it. And it's like, okay, so they're packing up. But like this one guy had a bunch of stuff that people liked and there's a big line. He's like, I'll just give them a good price on this and just roll it out. And the city person sitting there going, if you hand that out, you're violating the rules and you will get fined. Like, this is the insanity of government we're dealing with now. So I'm with you.
Yeah, it's too much. It's like I definitely am a fan of like smaller government. I'm not saying that like we shouldn't help people. I'm just saying that like there's some things that government shouldn't be involved in your life, especially to the level that it is. And I think that this is one of them, right? So like to kind of bring it back. So this is really only affecting 200 people today. It's taking 5% of their net worth applied to worldwide assets. So this means that someone like Elon Musk, if he did live in California, he would have to sell shares of Tesla and probably like 20 to 40 billion dollars worth of shares, which is crazy. And the projected revenue would just be $100 billion. It's just one time. But you see that chart. It's not like that the California government is going to correct their spending. Well, next year, this is just going to fill that hole one time. So what's the next year? They can't keep going back to the well here, right? So it's not a long-term solution. So the only long-term solution is getting your spending under control. So typically now why this is a problem is, now this is the root of it, right? People often complain that billionaires don't pay taxes, and they're right. And how they do it is this strategy called buy, borrow, and die. So if I was worth $100 million, I can go to a bank and I could say, I have $100 million worth of stock in Microsoft. I would like you to give me a loan for $20 million, and I'll put up my stock, my shares, as guarantee. And now, rather than paying, basically, if I were to sell that 100 million, I would get hit with, like, in California, maybe like $30 million in taxes, right? So I don't know the number exactly, but if I borrow that 20 million, I fund my life. All I have to do is make the interest on that, right? Which is going to be far, far less than my taxable rate. And I would just have to sell a very smaller amount of shares to basically just pay the interest down on this loan. Now, the loan does not count as taxable income. So someone like Jeff Bezos can pay less in federal income tax and state income tax than a kindergarten teacher. This is how he would do it. He would just say, hey, JP Morgan, I want you to give me a loan for $1 billion cash. And he'll just make the payment and sell a little bit of shares, right? And he'll just make the payment. And then when he dies, his heirs or his estate will inherit those assets. They don't have to pay the capital gains. Those assets get revalued, basically called on a stepped up basis, and they get valued at the current market rate. So the heirs of the super wealthy, they don't have to pay capital gains tax, because say that you bought Apple at $10 and now it's $200 a share. Well, if you were to sell that, you would pay capital gains tax. But when you die and it goes to your estate, whoever inherits that, they basically don't have to pay capital gains tax. The value of that gets assessed when it gets transferred to you. So this is how rich people and their families hoard wealth, right? And so this is what people are mad about. And on the surface, this is exactly what happened with California. California makes all this money from people basically selling stock, and people stop doing that. So they're like, okay, billionaires, we're going to force you to sell your stock. Now, what this ended up happening is basically those 200 people control $2 trillion worth of wealth. As of today, $1 trillion has left. They're like, bye, right? So then you have to ask yourself, wealth is mobile. You could just leave, right? So a bunch of people saw the writing on the wall. They're like, I don't even want to take the risk. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave. Now, has this happened before? Yes. This wealth tax has been tried tons of times. Most famously, it was tried in France. And France did something very similar to this. And essentially what happened was they had 42,000 millionaires, because once they come for $1 billion, remember, that's just a one-time thing and you can't keep going back to that well. So who's up next to collect from? It's millionaires. And then once that they take all the money from them, it's the middle class, right? So this sets precedent for the government to seize your private property. So in France, they had 42,000 millionaires flee the country. When they passed this, it was so bad that they actually ended up collecting less revenue as a country than prior to having the law, right? So this actually had a horrible effect, and it eventually was so bad that it had to be repealed in 2018.
That's so crazy. I mean, it makes perfect sense, though. It's kind of like, you set a rock rolling on a hill. Yeah, it's going to roll downhill. You threaten a bunch of people with taking all their money if they remain in the state, they're going to leave.
Really? Yeah. Yeah. Like money is an open door, right? And especially when you have that much means, you can have great teams, like do very, very creative things. But this actually paves the way to our next segment. So as you know, every episode we do a segment called Where Are They Now? And famously, this person, Adam Neumann, actually used the very thing, the build, borrow, and die. He used this strategy to fund his life. Okay, because he was the CEO of a private company, and he famously got a loan from one of the banks for tens of millions of dollars. And so on paper at one time he was a billionaire. In actuality, he actually had tens of millions of dollars in the bank, and he used this very strategy to accumulate wealth and protect his wealth. So with that said, I'm going to turn it to Anna. She's going to go through where are they now?
Okay, so this is your new favorite part of the podcast. Where are they now? So Adam Neumann was ousted from his company. So that's crazy just to say. Even though he had the largest share in his company and had over 50% of the voting power, you think that would be enough to not get ousted from your company, but if you think that, you're wrong. So imagine this man that convinced many people that just renting out office desks would actually be the new tech revolution for $47 billion. So this man, the co-founder of WeWork, someone who's never heard of him, his story is the ultimate roller coaster of ambition, astronomical wealth, and spectacular fall. So, okay. So for Adam Neumann, he was the leader of WeWork, and he had the global powerhouse and a peak approximate of $47 billion. He was selling office space, but really he sold it as he's selling a new lifestyle. But this all failed in 2019 when his bubble bursted for the IPO collapse. So investors began questioning, why did this happen? Why is there so many massive losses? And Newman's controversial leadership style was starting to be questioned by these people. So leading the board, he decided to resign as CEO. So SoftBank was actually the person that funded this for $3 billion, but their kind of like cost to the board was like, hey, we need to get rid of this guy because we think that he actually sucks. So that's exactly what happened. And most people, after something like this would happen, they're like, oh my gosh, that's so embarrassing for him. Like, he'll probably just go into a hole and we'll never see him again. But actually, that didn't happen. So he actually has a different story than some people. So he has more of like the fail forward culture. So with all this embarrassment from WeWork, he took that and actually made a new company called Flow. And this company has actually made over $350 million in revenue. So this is super awesome for him because he's not embarrassing, but it's a new residential real estate startup called Flow. So his goal is just to kind of make this living style for people not so like blah. So like if you go to like an apartment complex and you have all these like horrible rules and just like it just feels bad. He just wants to make a new community focused for rentals. And it's actually reached Miami, Nashville, Atlanta, and Riyadh. So that's really awesome for him. But basically the takeaway for this is you could do everything in your power to try to control what happens in your company through majority of shares, but if you contract with a lender or an investor to give up your board seat, there's nothing that you can do because that you already gave away your seat. So, lesson learned for Adam Neumann.
Okay, something fascinating. So as you were giving the story of Adam Neumann, I basically researched this man, Adam Neumann, had a credit line of $500 million against his WeWork shares. At the time of the IPO of WeWork, he had already drawn down $380 million from his credit line. So this is a really good example of Adam Neumann had shares in WeWork. He was extended a $500 million credit line. He drew down $380 million on that credit line. And how much money did he pay in taxes on that $380 million?
Zero. And so, wait a minute. Let me just put in my dumb person speak here for me. So he literally had stock over here and then went to the bank and was like, give me $380 million. you can take that stock from me if I don't pay it back.
If you don't pay it back, that's
$380 million in his pocket to go spend and do whatever he wants, and paid $0 in tax.
Correct. Because it's a loan, right? Like when you get a loan for your house, like I bought my house for $500,000. Did I have to pay any tax on the loan of my house? No, the answer is no. The same thing is when you take out any kind of loan, it doesn't count as taxable income. Now, when you eventually have to sell the shares to pay down, eventually you have to pay down that loan, right? But you can do
now let's
so
take this,
at a
wait a
more
minute. Let's take this
tax-advantaged
further.
basis.
Yeah, for this guy, okay, he took his money, and then the IPO flopped, and so now the SoftBank or whoever is over there like holding on to his loan, and now the collateral is worth a tenth of what it started with. I imagine.
Correct.
That doesn't work out well for the bank.
Yeah. So basically, what happens here? WeWork's IPO value crashed from $47 billion to $10 billion in late 2019. So the collateral for that $380 million that he has borrowed against, that evaporated, gone, right? Now, as part of reorganizing this, there was a bailout. So in a normal scenario, the banks would have issued a margin call, seizing his stock and then selling it to pay back the loan. However, to save the IPO and the company, SoftBank had to step in. And as part of Adam Neumann's exit package, SoftBank effectively extended him credit to help him repay the bank loans, preventing a total personal financial collapse.
So this is the case where if you're a billionaire, we're going to make some new rules for you. You and I, Kenny, would have had our house taken away and we would have been kicked out on the street. But this guy has someone fly in from above and go, wait a minute, that house is connected to this building and we can't let all that fall. We got too much money in this. So we're going to go ahead and take his loan and he can keep his house.
Yeah. So it's a really good example how there are two sets of rules for the ultra wealthy and the common person. And this is a really good example of being able to borrow against your shares is a way that you can basically reduce your taxable income and really preserve wealth. And so it's something that basically every wealthy person does. And that's why that their effective tax basis is lower than ours.
So is he still sitting on the couch or is he up somewhere now?
No, Anna he has a whole new thing called Flow, and Gabby actually lives in one of the apartments.
Flow is still going. It's still.
Yeah,
Flow's still going.
Still going, yep.
And he lives a lavish lifestyle in Miami. He's doing just fine.
Okay. I won't stay up worrying about it.
Oh, I also have a picture to share.
Oh, yeah.
That's actually pretty funny.
Oh, yeah,
So,
look at him with no shoes, huh?
No shoes.
This is a famous picture, yeah.
This is Adam Neumann in the flesh.
Yeah.
Now,
Yep.
So
Anna, please, I need you to just kind of look at this guy, and I'm just going to borrow your perception for a moment. Besides the fact that he's barefoot on a disgusting sidewalk, like physically, does he look like an attractive male to you?
he's not my type.
Okay, maybe not your type, but I feel like now I don't want to color this, but I feel like he's got decent arms, he's got the long flowing hair, he's got the strong jawline.
He looks like your average man.
I think what we're dealing with here is an age gap, because to you it looks like some old dude, which you're not wrong.
I don't know. I just feel like he just looks average. He's just not.
That's fair.
If he was walking down the street, I wouldn't think that he would have billions in the bank account. But
exactly,
I would be wrong.
Thank you. That's my point. Is like the traditionally guy that maybe everyone would just goo goo gaga. Doesn't matter what age you are. Rarely are those the billionaires. So, Kenny, that's good news for you and me. We're not too good looking to be billionaires.
Do you know what though? Not to shit on the guy. He built WeWork. Like what he did was cool. Like anyone that builds a business that gets valued at over $1 billion, like you did it, dude. You did it. Hats off. Like it's so hard to build a business that I won't shit on anyone that does it. And what I will say in defense of him, he's incredibly charming and very charismatic. And Steve Jobs has this like famous line. It's the storytellers that rule the world, right? And he's a really good example. He's not technical, but really he got to be his status in life just purely because he's incredibly charming and charismatic, and he wasn't afraid to sell a giant vision. That's what Silicon Valley respects. If you're like, hey, I have this idea for a business and I think I can make $3 million and then $6 million and 11, okay, cool. Everyone thinks that. But if you come to them and you have enough charisma and you're like, I have an idea that is going to change how people work all over the world. The way that people work right now, that's bullshit. The way that everyone's going to work, if what I know to be true comes true, everything will change. And I just need a few $1 million to put us on the road to that change, but it's inevitable. It's going to happen. Are you in or out? Do you want to be part of changing the way that human beings work? And that's basically his pitch. And people were like, holy shit, you're right. This commercial real estate space hasn't been innovated in for 100 years. Yeah, there's a reason, because the fundamentals of it are tried and true. A piece of real estate has a long-term note that you have to pay on. And you're trying to take a long-term note and fill it in with short-term liabilities, right? So is it a shitty business model? Hell yeah, it is. It's shitty, right? For that long-term note, you need a long-term tenant. They have to match up, right? And so but he sold the story, and kudos to him. Shit, I wish I had that ability to sell a dream like that. So I don't know. Anyway, that puts an end. If you like this episode, please share it, subscribe to us on YouTube. We're about to cross 1,000 subs, which is kind of exciting for us. Started at 0, now we're here. And so do like it, do share it, subscribe on YouTube and on Spotify, and we'll catch you next week.